Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Nutrition Diva podcast. Today we're sponsored by Bedphones, the thinnest headphones on the market, which makes them great for sleep, travel, meditation, and everything else. So if you are tired of uncomfortable headphones, head to dubslabs.com/nutritiondiva and enter the coupon code NutritionDiva and you get $10 off your purchase. Nutrition Diva listener Lindsay recently asked me to look into a new superfood she'd heard about. She wrote, "After listening to your podcast for quite some time, I know to be skeptical of any new superfood, but I'm really curious about brewed cacao. Is it as good as it claims to be in terms of antioxidants and theobromine? How would it compare to a square of dark chocolate? I'm wondering if this is a drink to embrace or avoid." Well, to be honest with you, I hadn't heard about brewed cacao before Lindsay brought it to my attention, but boy, am I glad she did. Brewed cacao is a delicious way to enjoy the health benefits of chocolate without the sugar, fat, or calories that usually come along with it. And it's also a great low caffeine alternative to coffee. Now, I have nothing against caffeine per se. Regular caffeine consumption appears to confer several benefits, including protection against Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease. Now, coffee is the main source of caffeine in most people's diets, and coffee also has health benefits above and beyond its caffeine content, such as reducing the risk of type 2 diabetes. And coffee is also the number one source of antioxidants in the American diet. Nonetheless, coffee doesn't agree with everyone, and some people just prefer to avoid caffeine. Even those of us who do enjoy coffee often choose not to consume it after a certain point in the day so that it doesn't mess with our sleep. And that's where brewed cacao comes in. First enjoyed by the ancient Incans, brewed cacao is like coffee, but it's made with cacao beans instead of coffee beans. The cacao beans are dried and lightly fermented and then roasted. And then the roasted beans are ground and used to brew a hot beverage. It has a very pronounced chocolate aroma and flavor, but no sugar, fat, and virtually no calories. Sounds delicious, doesn't it? It is. But what about these superfood claims Lindsay mentions? I'll have more on that in just a sec, but first I also wanted to thank Casper Mattress for their continued sponsorship of the podcast. The Casper is an obsessively engineered mattress at a shockingly fair price. It combines springy latex and supportive memory foam to create an award-winning sleep surface that has just the right sink and just the right bounce, and its breathable design helps you regulate your temperature through the night. Time magazine named it one of the best inventions of 2015, and you can try this amazing American-made mattress risk-free in your own home. Sleep on it for 100 nights, and if you don't love it, they'll pick it up and refund you everything. Shipping and returns within the US and Canada are completely free. You can get $50 toward any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/diva. That's casper.com/diva. And use the offer code DIVA to save $50. Some terms and conditions apply. And now let's take a closer look at the nutritional benefits of brewed cacao. Cacao is a very rich source of flavonoids, antioxidant compounds that promote cardiovascular health and appear to protect against type 2 diabetes and cognitive decline. And cacao also contains chemicals that can enhance your mood. Of course, most people consume cacao in the form of chocolate, which also tends to contain a fair amount of sugar, fat, and calories. Brewed cacao, on the other hand, delivers these beneficial compounds without any sugar or fat and virtually no calories, just about 10 calories per cup. I put together a table that shows how brewed cacao compares to unsweetened cocoa powder and dark chocolate in terms of some of the more important flavonoids. And you can see that in the transcript for today's show, which is at nutritiondiva.quickanddirtytips.com. And you'll see that brewed cacao is significantly more potent than either dark chocolate or unsweetened cocoa powder. Brewed cacao contains very little caffeine, about 15 milligrams per cup. However, it's quite rich in a related compound called theobromine. Chocolate is the primary source of theobromine in our diets, and like caffeine, theobromine stimulates the central nervous system. However, theobromine is more slowly absorbed into the bloodstream, and its effects are milder. Some people describe feeling focused but calm when they ingest theobromine. But these are very subjective experiences, and so far, we haven't been able to verify them in scientific trials. And similarly, the evidence that theobromine acts as an appetite suppressant appears to be anecdotal. As much as I enjoyed drinking brewed cacao, and I really appreciated having that lower caffeine option to drink late in the day, I have to admit I didn't really feel a difference in my ability to focus or my appetite. You might. And even if you're just imagining things, well, who gets hurt there? A cup of brewed cacao contains about 300 milligrams of theobromine, and that's about twice what you get from an ounce of dark chocolate, a tablespoon of cocoa powder, or a cup of hot cocoa. As with just about anything else, it is possible to overdo it with theobromine. High intakes of theobromine might make you feel jittery, irritable, nauseous, or give you a headache. Because the theobromine levels in brewed cacao are pretty high and the chemical stays in your bloodstream for quite some time, I would suggest enjoying no more than 3 cups a day. So how does one enjoy brewed cacao? Well, just like coffee, cacao beans are available from different regions of the world and in a variety of roasts. I sampled a French roast made with cacao beans from Ghana and also a lighter roast made from Ecuadorian cacao beans. You can make it in a regular drip coffee maker or in a French press coffee pot, which is what I would recommend. And to extract the maximum flavor, I also suggest that you use boiling water instead of the slightly cooler water that you would use to make coffee. And you can also use the grounds to make cold brew or iced cacao beverages. Now, you could combine ground coffee and ground cacao, and you'd end up with a reduced caffeine mocha-type beverage. As much as I liked the sound of this, I didn't actually enjoy it that much. I found that the coffee overwhelmed the flavor of the cacao and that it resulted in a slightly muddy tasting brew. You might like it though. Now, there are a couple of different brands out there. If you do an internet search for brewed cacao, you'll quickly see your options. Now, the information that I was able to put together on the antioxidant content of brewed cacao applies to the brand called Creo Brew, and they kindly shared the results of their lab analysis with me so that I could put that table together for you. And finally, gourmet coffee drinkers may also be pleasantly surprised by the price tag. High-quality, fair-trade roasted cacao is not as expensive as high-quality, fair-trade coffee beans. If you do decide to try it, let me know what you think. You can post a comment on our website or on the Nutrition Diva Facebook page. And I'd like to close today with an email I got from Kim, who wrote, "In a recent podcast, you said that it's okay to be a vegetarian who occasionally eats meat. And I just wanted to ask you, please be sensitive to how these labels are used. A vegetarian does not eat meat, even occasionally. The diet you're describing would be better described as primarily plant-based." Kim is absolutely right. And I owe all of my vegetarian friends and listeners an apology. In fact, in previous episodes, I've actually gone out of my way to point out that someone who occasionally eats meat cannot be described as a vegetarian. So I have absolutely no excuse for my sloppy word choice in the recent podcast. Instead of saying that it's okay to be a vegetarian who occasionally eats meat, I should have said, if you want to be someone who eats vegetarian meals 80% of the time, but who occasionally eats meat, that's fine. Thanks, Kim, for writing. I'm always happy to hear from listeners, even when, or especially when, they're pointing out a mistake I've made, because that gives me the opportunity to set the record straight. That's it for me this week. I hope you enjoyed today's show, and if you're not already subscribed to the podcast, perhaps you'll add it to your regular listening. Have a great week, and remember to eat something good for me.